Good evening, Bapak dan Ibu semua. Welcome to Limitless Future 4+0. Hari ini adalah hari yang sangat luar biasa karena kami bisa mengadakan talk show, seminar, bagaimana caranya ada kerjasama BINUS University dengan University of Newcastle yang baru saja di-launch September tahun 2020 ini. Bersama kami, kita we would like to introduce Professor Houtan. Welcome, Professor Houtan. Professor Houtan is the Assistant Dean of International Recruitment and Academic Partnership of the Faculty of Business and Law at the University of Newcastle. Welcome, Professor Hout. Professor, at first we invited Professor Tony Travaggioni, but due to unforeseen circumstances, he couldn't make it. But we are so glad that Professor Houtan, would make the time to come to this presentation today. So thank you for coming, Professor Houtan. Next, we also have Stephen Healy. Hi, Stephen Healy. He is the founder and managing director at Nurture Higher Education Group. Mr. Healy had more than 20 years of experience in the senior management and leadership in the higher education, both in the private and the public sector. Welcome, we're glad to have you here.
That's great. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone.
Yes. And we also have Ibu Noni Purnomo. She is the President Director of PT Bluebird, TBK, and she'll be joining with us today. She's the alumni of University of Newcastle, and we cannot wait to hear some amazing stories from her. And of course, we also have, from BINUS University, we have Bapak Dr. Ahmad Syamil. Bapak Dr. Ahmad Syamil is the Dean of the International Undergraduate Program, BINUS Business School. Welcome, welcome, Dr. Syamil. And before we start, we'd like to hear a few words from the Director of BINUS Business School, Bapak Profesor Desi Warganegara. Bapak Desi Warganegara, we welcome.
Can you hear my voice, Ibu Ayu?
Yes, clearly, Pak.
Okay. Our distinguished guest, Professor Houtan, Assistant Dean of Faculty of Business and Law, University of Newcastle, and President Director of Bluebird, Ms. Noni Purnomo. I think she would join us later on. And founder and managing director of Nurture Higher Education, Mr. Stephen Healy. Professor Tan and Mr. Healy, our rector, Professor Harjanto Prabowo, could not attend this Zoom event because he has already had prior engagement at the same time. But he sent his deepest gratitude and convey his best wishes for this collaboration. And also, I would like to greet my fellow BINUSian, Dr. Ahmad Syamil, Dean of BINUS Business School International Undergraduate Program. Also, Mr. Wincher, Director Program, Senayan Campus. All my fellow BINUSian, Head of Programs, faculty members, and staff, students, parents, and media. Good morning to you all. It is such an honor for BINUS University and BINUS Business School to welcome you all today for this virtual event to discuss on limitless opportunities in digital era and how it transforms business. By chance, recently, I just learned a report on the survey conducted by McKinsey Indonesia. It says that only 21% companies in Indonesia has implemented Industry 4.0, which is far behind other countries, which somewhere between 46 to 50%. However, those Indonesian companies agreed that implementation of technology in their business activities will increase their performance by around 50%, and at the same time contribute to an increase of our nation GDPs by 10%. The report by McKinsey Indonesia predicted that around 50% companies in Indonesia will implement Industry 4.0 in 2025, and guess in 2030, 70% of them will implement Industry 4.0. So less than 10 years from now. That report reveals an opportunity and a challenge. for all business schools in Indonesia, for preparing their students to face a different arena when they enter business world. As a part of BINUS University, BINUS Business School has a vision of fostering and empowering the nation through business education. But actually, adaptation to technology is not a new thing for BINUS, because it is the foundation of BINUS University since its establishment. However, we still need to strengthen our effort in preparing our students by collaborating with the best university in the world. So this is why we have collaboration with the University of Newcastle. This collaboration of the two universities offer a double degree program, which is Bachelor of Economics from BINUS University and Bachelor of Business in Innovation and Entrepreneurship, or Bachelor of Commerce in Finance from University of Newcastle. And it takes 4 years all in Indonesia to get those 2 degrees. At the end, this collaboration will enhance the readiness of our graduates in their professional life and bring a mutual benefit for all of us. Once again, I would like to extend our gratitude for all distinguished guests, facilitators, organizers, for their participation in this event today. Enjoy and take care, you all.
Thank you, Bapak Desi Warga Negara. Before we begin our talk show for the day, why don't we watch a little clip, a short clip on the University of Newcastle, shall we? All right. We have our distinguished speakers, Bapak Professor Houtan and Stephen Healy on here this morning with us. Good morning, Professor Houtan. How are you today?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you so much. What time is it in Australia right now?
It's 1:50 in the afternoon.
Okay, so it's past lunchtime.
Yes.
Past lunchtime, right? And Stephen Healy, it's what time is it now? Where are you now? Are you in UK?
I'm in London, so I think it's
You're
technically before breakfast time in London. We're about coming up to
okay.
4 a.m.
Okay, well, good to have you. Good to have you here with us. Thank you for waking up so early and looking good, wearing a suit and all that at 3 a.m. in the morning. At 3 a.m.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, we'd like to talk more about the University of Newcastle, since this September is actually the inauguration, basically, on our new collaboration with BINUS University. Professor Houtan, do you want to say do you have anything to say about that? Do you want to present first?
Yes. Thank you very much, Ayu. And also many thanks, Professor Desi. I found your introduction very informative and insightful. I did learn something just, you know, at this beginning of the session, I felt I already learned something from this audience and from the participants. So as you just mentioned, we have participants from Australia, from London, from Indonesia, and I'm sure that probably from other places in the world. So this demonstrates we do live in a globalized world. Hello, everyone. It's my great pleasure to be here. My name is Hao Tan. I'm Assistant Dean International Recruitment and Academic Partnership of Faculty of Business Law in University of Newcastle. I'm here to present on behalf of Professor Tony Trevoni, our Vice-Chancellor. He originally planned to present this session, but unfortunately, there's some unexpected commitment coming up, and so he couldn't make it. So he asked me to present on his behalf. Later on, our Vice-Chancellor and President, Professor Alex Zelinsky, will also join the session and give an opening speech. But in my presentation, I'd like to provide a brief introduction, especially from the perspective of Newcastle Business School, and also from the perspective of the academic programs that are most relevant to this audience. Can we just show the presentation, please?
Sure. While we're waiting for a video, we also have in the audience Bapak George. Welcome, Bapak George, in the audience. Is the video ready? Good morning, Bapak George.
Yeah, we already played the video, so just the slides, please.
Please proceed.
Okay. I think they're experiencing some technical issue, Professor Tan. So sorry about the, issue.
Yeah, here we are.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, excellent. So this slide provides you a quick overview of the University of Newcastle. I guess probably most of you in the audience have heard about our university, although sometimes people tend to get confused between our university and another Newcastle University in England. So Newcastle University in England is also a good university, but we are an Australian university. And in fact, in many areas, we are ranked higher than Newcastle University in England. We have almost 40,000 students currently studying with us. These students are studying in 5 major faculties. They are from 115 countries. And our international students account for about 1/5 of the student population. Our students are taught and supported by about 3,000 staff who strive to achieve excellence in research and teaching. We have 140,000 strong global alumni across the world, including many excellent graduates in Indonesia, such as Dr. Noni, who will be speaking with you in a moment. Next slide, please. Next slide. Our university is ranked among top 200 university in the world. In Australia, we are ranked among top 10 universities. Our university has a particularly strong culture in industry collaboration, turning our knowledge into practices. A demonstration of this strength is our ranking in the international ranking for impact, for which we are ranked number 45. This is a reflection of the university's strengths in translating our knowledge and research into economical, social, and environmental benefits through our engagement and teaching activities. Next slide, please. Are you?
Next slide.
We have several campuses in New South Wales, in Australia, and also one campus in Singapore. We have two main campuses in Newcastle area. Newcastle is the city in Australia, just 2 hours away from Sydney. And this is sixth largest city in Australia. And it also has the largest coal exporting port in the world. I know also Indonesia is also a coal-rich country. In the Newcastle city, around the area, we have the Callaghan campus, which sits in a 140-hectare site. We also have a campus in Newcastle CBD, which includes a $98 million landmark education complex, which is the home of a Newcastle BINUS School. We also have a campus in Sydney, which is just several hundred meters away from Opera House. Next slide, please. Are you? And within the university, the Newcastle BINUS School is the most relevant school to your study. Newcastle BINUS School is ranked among top 150 BINUS schools in the world in the areas of management, business administration, hospitality, and tourism. We also ranked among top 175 in the area of economics and top 200 in public administration. We are AA CSB accredited, which places us in an elite group of less than 5% of BINUS schools in the world. In fact, I understand BINUS is also AA CSB accredited BINUS school. So the collaboration between these two is indeed a collaboration between two very strong, extremely strong leading BINUS school in the world. We have also gained accreditations, or we are affiliated with a number of professional bodies in individual disciplines. For example, our finance program is recognized by the CFA, Chartered Financial Analyst CFA Institute. Next slide, please, are you? So in Newcastle BINUS School, we offer a number of undergraduate and postgraduate programs. Here, I just like to highlight two programs that are most relevant to you, which are offered by us and delivered at BINUS. The first one is Bachelor of BINUS, in particular, the entrepreneurship and innovation major. In this program, besides foundation courses such as economics, foundation of marketing, business decision making, and so on, students will also be studying some specific courses specific to this major. For example, they will learn how to develop a comprehensive business plans, to learn how to undertake business venturing, to learn how to formulate and implement innovation strategies, and also to understand and manage risks. Upon the completion of this degree, this program, students will gain critical skills to enable them to start a career, for example, as an entrepreneur, or innovation manager, or business development manager, and so on. According to official statistics, over 90% of our graduates in this program find a job within 4 months of graduation. Next slide, please, Ayu. So another program students can study with us through BINUS is Bachelor of Commerce in Finance major. The course in this program have been developed by international renowned professors in our school in the area of finance, such as Professor Abu Samaduddin and Professor Stephen Easton. Students will gain a real life experience as a financial analyst in the program, using professional software and real-time financial data in your learning and studying experience. Upon the completion of this degree, students will be able to start a career as a finance manager or investment banker, and so on. So I'd like to end my brief introduction here and hand over to Mr. Stephen Healy, the founder and managing director of Neutral Higher Education Group, to provide you a bit more information in terms of what experience you can expect in studying in those programs through this 4+0 arrangement. Thank you very much, Irene, and thank everyone.
Thank you so much, Professor Houghton, for your presentation. I think we have a very clear explanation of what University of Newcastle, especially the Newcastle Business School, has to offer. And it's such an, I think it's an amazing experience also for the BINUS University students that now we can actually collaborate. We are officially collaborating with Newcastle Business School. So thank you so much, Professor Houghton. And also in the audience, we are joined by Bapak Stephen Wahyudi Santoso. He's the president of BINUS Higher Education, as well as Bapak George Wijaya Hadipuspito, the vice president of BINUS Higher Education. Good morning, Bapak. Thank you for joining us this morning. Okay. So because we have Ibu Noni on with us already, why don't we, and Stephen, would it be okay if we start with Ibu Noni first?
Absolutely. I'm very, very keen to hear Mrs. Noni's story. So absolutely cool about talking.
Yes.
And you've got me for the next 2 hours until breakfast anyway.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Ibu Noni Purnomo, before we listen to her stories, we actually have, we have a video that can actually showcase, a little bit about her and how her experience in University of Newcastle as the alumni, bring about the careers that she has today. Good morning, Ibu Noni. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Morning. Thank you for inviting me. I'm really glad to be part of this celebration, the collaboration between BINUS and University of Newcastle.
Yes. Okay. Before we start, can we watch the video clip that we have of you?
I grew up in Indonesia. I spent almost my whole youth in Indonesia, and after I graduated from high school, I came to Newcastle, Australia. I'm Noni Purnomo, graduated in 1995, Industrial Engineering from the Callahan campus. My father gave me the opportunity to study abroad, but he didn't want me to study in a big city, and he didn't want me to study too far from Indonesia. So Newcastle was a perfect place. Being different always have its challenges and always have its plus sides as well. Being part of the Newcastle 2NUR radio station, it pushed me through my comfort zone. Being a radio DJ on that time, you have to do everything yourself. So it helps me with several things, not just being able to speak in a structural way. It helped me develop the crisis management skill. So I think I learned a lot from being a radio DJ. After I did my industrial engineering in Newcastle, my late grandmother, who was actually the founder of our family company, asked me to come back and work for the company. Now I'm the CEO of our family business. We have about 50,000 employees. Our core business is in passenger transportation, consists of taxis, limousine, car rental, and buses. We also have other subsidiary companies. In career, I think my proudest achievement is when I founded the Women Empowerment Program to help the wives of the drivers. You know, people can do businesses from home through the e-commerce, the digital economy. So that was the focus of the program. I become who I am because I was here. I learned how to live differently. I learned to be independent. I learned to have a growth mindset and be more tolerant. I used to say that I was a caterpillar when I got here, you know, and I was in my cocoon, and when I graduated as a butterfly. And I'm very happy to be part of the alumni of University of Newcastle.
Great. Excellent story, Bu Noni. So you graduated in 1995.
Yes.
That's your bachelor degree, right? That's where you earn your bachelor degree. Okay.
Yes.
And then you pursuing your master's degree afterwards.
Yeah, so after I graduated from my bachelor, I came back to Jakarta. Could you hear me? Okay, yeah.
Yes.
And I worked for about 1.5 years in two places, actually. One is at Bluebird, because my late grandmother asked me to work at Bluebird, and I was an industrial engineer. So my first job was at our maintenance department, to try to make our maintenance department have a higher quality and the business processes as efficient as possible. That's what an industrial engineer would do, right? To make the processes as efficient as possible and the production as high as possible. But I also had interest in learning more about business and marketing. So I work in another company. So I work from 8 to 5 in Jakarta Convention Bureau, which is a pure marketing company to sell Jakarta as a MICE destination. And in the evening, from 6 to about midnight, I work at Bluebird, because the maintenance department has 3 shifts, so we never close. And after 1.5 years, I decided to pursue my further education to do my MBA in the US. So I did a double major for my MBA. I did finance and marketing. The reason why I chose those is because a lot of time people said, oh, you know, if you're a finance major, you only focus about the budget, about the financing part, and you can't really understand the point of view from the business or from the marketing strategy. So I really would like to have that combination of knowledge on that time. That's the reason why I took those major. Yeah.
Wow. I think you're such an excellent example of, you know, being a woman entrepreneur, as well as showcasing that grit, you know, that perseverance, because I don't think it's easy to take a double major to work basically. But you know, I think it's such an amazing story that you can tell now to the audience, right? When you were in Newcastle, when we watch your story, it says that we know that you are an industrial design major, but why did you learn about radio broadcasting? That's interesting.
I was an industrial engineering major, not the design. Yeah, sorry, my art skill is not good at all. So I'm far from being able to design anything. Yeah, so actually, that is one of the things that I learned the most in Newcastle, which is to explore other culture. Part of it is Newcastle every year, University of Newcastle have this cultural week. I used to, I'm not sure now if they still have it, but I hope they do. Because I think that is a very, it's a great opportunity for international students to assimilate with the Australian students. And that part is as important as the formal education itself. And the reason why I got involved in the 2NUR, the radio station, was because the radio station was introducing cultural slot. So once a week, there will be people from different culture. We got 1 hour a week to share about Indonesian culture, which I think, again, is a really great idea. So of course, I just took the opportunity to, I'm basically a salesperson, so any opportunity I can get to sell Indonesia to anyone, then I would just do it. And also on the other hand, I learned a lot about the Australian culture itself, which is extremely important, especially now with this, what we call the digital transformation, which is actually just a transformation of mindset. You know, it's a borderless mindset. So being able to understand different culture, I think it's key to the future success. And, you know, when you ask about, you know, I need perseverance to have these 2 jobs, 2 majors, I tend to have that, I like to have to choose, you know, it's like when there is an or, I always like to try to find an end. If I can do both, why not? You know, why do I have to choose one if I can do both? You know, so it's, I think it's you know, kind of that kind of mindset.
Right. I think that's a good book. You know, even just listening to your story, you know, thinking about, you know, I feel like I learned so much from you just by listening to that short story of yours, that I think we always have to have that perseverance in achieving our goals, right? I also read from your bio that you are now, you know, you are the president director of, you know, we can say the biggest Indonesia's public, sorry, not public, private transportation, PT Bluebird, right? We can say that it's, you know, throughout, especially throughout this time of the pandemic, I think your company is one of the company that's still doing well. And I'm sure it's because of your leadership in it. What do you learn, or what do you learn back in when you're doing your school, when you're still in college, that you still implement in your leadership style, even as the company grows to 50,000 employees these days? What do you learn so far, or what do you still implement?
I think the basic mentality, I think that's what I still bring until now. I think what changed me the most from my experience in Newcastle is my ability to be agile, to adapt to whatever situation.
Right.
Mind you that when I first went to Newcastle, my English was not even good. You know, I learned English, you know, at the Indonesian high school, right? We only had English once a week. And so I didn't take courses and things. I learned English from TV, you know, from the movies. And of course, it has a completely different accent to Australian accent. And especially in Newcastle back then, where it is still until now the coal mining place, right? But so it is very, the culture is so different to the culture that I experienced in Jakarta. You know, living in a metropolitan, is such a big city that never sleeps. When I got to Newcastle the first time, I did not know anyone. And it was my first time ever getting away from my family. So I had to adjust and adapt very quickly. And it's just so many funny stories, you know, when I just arrived in Newcastle, for example, because of the different accent, if someone asked me, how are you? Because of the accent, I thought they asked me how old I was. So every time someone asks me how old, I would say, I'm 18. You know, it's like, you're like, huh? But you know,
No.
those kind of things. People may look at me weirdly on that time, but you know, we persevere as you mentioned, right? So we adapt and we adjust. I think that is what's important. And then what happened also in Newcastle, there was a big earthquake at one time when I was there. So then we have to adapt and adjust again. I have to move places because the place that I used to stay was ruined, and you know, so it's the adaptability and agility is the one that I take in until now. It's not just the perseverance itself. I think in life it is very important for us to have a bigger purpose. Because without the bigger purpose, every time we face a challenge, we would have a tendency to give up very easily. So that perseverance comes from having a bigger purpose. Like you mentioned about Bluebird at this moment, we have been facing challenge after challenge after challenge, right? I mean, after 2006, where the Bluebird, bird of happiness, was suddenly known in social media as the angry bird. And that was a huge challenge for us, being destroyed, not just as a business, but also our mental health per se. You know, so we have shown that because of our bigger purpose, because of our perseverance, we managed to grow even bigger after that. The second part is now, this pandemic really hit transportation industry. We are a public company, so you can see our result in April. Our revenue was down by almost 70%. It's a huge thing. As a shareholder, as a CEO, of course, we have choices to make. And none of it is easy choices. And that is life, right? I mean, a lot of times you just have to make choices, but you have to just simply choose the best choice among the worst, you know, sometimes. So I think having a bigger purpose helps again to handle this kind of situation. I remember my late grandmother, who I mentioned as the founder of this company, before she passed away in year 2000, she mentioned to me and my family members who are working in the company that the main reason why we have to keep existing and we have to keep growing is not just for the shareholders, because our responsibility is for our drivers and their families. We have like 200,000 people depending their life on the existence of our business. So I think that is the main driver of our energy. So we will try our best to just face any kind of challenges. But that also means that we may need to do a lot of changes. Internally, I keep saying to our company that we have to change from being this huge elephant, a very strong elephant, as you mentioned, the largest passenger transportation in Indonesia. At one point, we're second in Southeast Asia after ComfortDelGro Group. So we have to transform from being an elephant to becoming a cheetah, you know, and it is not an easy process. Can you imagine what kind of fat we need to shed, what kind of muscle we need to change? But we need to change. And that takes a bigger purpose, that takes passion, and that takes perseverance.
Yes. Wow. I'm sure, you know, if you talk back to your 18-year-old self, Bu Noni, I don't think you would imagine that this is where you'll be doing at this moment, right? And we have in the audience, you know, future students, current students, and as well as parents, and also BINUS stakeholders. What would you say to them? You know, now that they are in their teens, when you were back then, when you were as a college students, now you can say, oh yeah, we have to have perseverance, we have to have the bigger purpose, we have to have this and that. But you know, sometimes being 18, being a teen, basically, you do not see in that big, right? You do not see that far. But now, if you can say to your 18-year-old self, what would you say?
I would say life is a learning journey. So just take everything that you get at this moment as a learning opportunity. This challenge that we're facing at this moment, I don't know what will be the result, right? But I know if we try our best now and we learn from whatever is given to us at this moment, we will get the best outcome, whatever the outcome is.
Yes.
But we can always look at things from a negative point of view, or we can look at things from an opportunity point of view. Of course, I have the privilege of the wisdom from my late grandmother and my father. My grandmother always reminds me that successful people are the one who can pass through any challenges given to them, the one that can see opportunities beyond any cloud that they're facing at that moment. So I think if I can give an advice to my own 18 years old, I think I would say that that's okay. Whatever happens is a good thing because you will learn. And that is a privilege that we get that can never be replaced. I learned this from my daughter, my oldest daughter. At one point of time, she was 9 on that time, and she said to me, "Mommy, count to 5." So I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And she said, "That's a 5 seconds of your life that you can never repeat." I think that's a very deep advice. Whatever you face at this moment, embrace it. And I would tell to my 18 years old self, don't try to be a perfectionist. Imagine on that time, I had a lot of obligations, right? And so, I always tend to want to be a perfectionist. I think we should accept that nobody is perfect. And that's the main objective. It's a main purpose for us living, to keep growing and to keep learning. And this collaboration between University of Newcastle and BINUS, I think not every person can get this opportunity. So if the student get the opportunity to take this experience, I think it is in our obligation to use it as best as we can. Because as we all know, there's so many kids out there who cannot even graduate from elementary school, right? So it is a real privilege to take part and really embrace the culture, learn from what University of Newcastle can offer and assimilate it with what BINUS is offering. And I really like the idea that Professor Houghton mentioned earlier. It's about how to implement it. It's about entrepreneurship is not about just theory. It's about how you see things, how you see opportunities among the challenges that we're all facing at this moment. How can you come out with something that would make other people's life better? I think that's how we should see things.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ibu Noni. I learned so much from you, and I'm sure the audience also learned so much from you. Maybe anybody from the audience would like to have 1 question or 2 questions for Ibu Noni. We still have, a few minutes with Ibu Noni. Stephen Healy, or maybe Professor Houghton, as Ibu Noni is the alumni of University of Newcastle.
Yeah, I absolutely concur what Dr. Noli has said. I myself was an international student. Of course, I came to study overseas at a fairly late stage in my life, but I had pretty much a similar experience and reflection as Dr. Noni has. So I just say very well spoken, and I totally agree with you about what you have suggested to prospective students. Be open-minded, being flexible, agile, and embrace the opportunities and take life as an adventure. So that's exactly what I have gone through. So yeah, well done, Noli. Yes.
Thank you, Professor Houghton. And yeah, I am very humbled that I receive a special recognition from the University of Newcastle as a Doctor of Letters, honorary causa.
I think you are well deserved. You are well
Thank
deserved.
you.
Miss Noni, it's lovely to hear this whole story from your side. I think it really is an inspiration and really drives at the purpose of what we do. I think we'll hear from Professor Zelinsky soon, but very much at the heart of the partnership we created that reflects really months of work from everybody. You know, everyone's now saying this is a great partnership of its time in the new normal. But as you know, we were driven very much by vision and purpose, and nobody 12 months ago when we started talking about this partnership could predict a pandemic. But the purpose of Newcastle, as you know, is very much driven around the values of equity and excellence. And that vision has actually enabled us to create something that's actually enduring the current situation we have. So wonderful insight and words of wisdom about being driven by purpose rather than what's immediately around you. And from there we can respond. But absolute pleasure listening to you this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibu Noni. Thank you, Professor Tan and Stephen. I think we can go to the next session of today's seminars. Ibu Noni, again, we'd like to thank you for your time, for coming today. I know you're very busy, so thank you so much for spending quality time and really teach us a lot of a lot of your insights. I really so much learned from you, and I thank you, and I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity, and good luck. Congratulations again.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on with today's event, we have Stephen. Now it's your turn, Stephen, to speak. I hope you have your breakfast ready and you're more pumped.
No, thank you. I mean, actually, it was wonderful how we were able to, I've got the benefit now of having heard the words and perspectives of Noni, really. But I'm also conscious, as we move time, we've got Professor Zelinsky coming on. So I know I'm around for the Q&A to talk more about the program. So I think rather than sort of going through a presentation, I can probably just add a few words of context for the audience as we wait through. But, very much from my point of view, starting at the very basics, good morning, good evening, everyone. I'm Stephen Healy from Nurture. I'm based in London, so I add the early morning dimension to the audience this morning. But I think Nurture, without going into too much detail of what we do, I guess we've been at the heart of trying to create this partnership from day one. Our partnership with the University of Newcastle extends beyond Indonesia. We're working with Newcastle on a global basis to create these 4+0 2-degree programs. So our first program we actually created in Thailand last year. BINUS, the partnership we began talking, I think it was about 9-10 months ago, and we finally were able to formalize all the agreements earlier this year. And what's wonderful about this partnership is the opportunity today to speak on behalf of so many people who have created it. So many people within the BINUS team, the International College, within the business school, likewise on Newcastle. I almost feel like at an operational level, I've been very involved in that detail. So it's great to be able to speak on their behalf today. But very much the 2-degree program we're launching today, everyone's very excited in the sense that this seems to be a perfect response to the current uncertainty and let's call it the lack of mobility between borders. But very much, as I said earlier, we created something that was about really following the values and missions of not just BINUS University, but the University of Newcastle and ourselves, which is very much around equity and excellence. And the program itself will create a whole series of opportunities pre-pandemic and now post-pandemic for students to get international education, but all of the other benefits that come from a quality education, namely greater status, greater employability options, and greater networks and community for the students. And that's what really drives what we're trying to create within the 2-degree program and reflect the wider values we have. So the program itself now is not just about the theory of promoting and hoping to enroll. I think we almost have just probably, I think by the end of this month, just over 100 students enrolled on to the 2-degree program. So it's a great standing start where we are not theorizing about what we can do. We can see it happening in the classroom. And I think with the students in the audience today, they will have met me and some of the other mentors and teams that we bring in along with the Newcastle and as well as, of course, the BINUS instructors. So we're all working on that. And today is just a reflection and celebration of a point of the journey rather than the beginning of the journey or the end of the journey, very much about the journey of where those students are. And that's probably the most exciting thing to be talking about. We can talk about strategy, vision, response, but actually it's only when we're dealing with the individual aspects of the students and their aspirations that becomes very, very real. And, you know, the last bit of my introduction is I'm also a parent of an 18-year-old who's just gone to university last month here in the UK and dealing with a lot of those issues where I don't want to talk about the theory. I now go into parent mode and worry about actually how is he being looked after in this post-pandemic world. So hearing Noni talk about the advice to the 18-year-old self, for me, that's quite tangible because I'm thinking about my advice to my 18-year-old son right now. And these are very real issues as we talk about, you know, credentials, world-class this, ranking and reputation, to which people focus a lot on. But I think at the end of the day, this is about how we meet and develop individual aspirations of our students. So I think the program we've created is a wonderful opportunity for a whole new generation of students to get some of the opportunities that others have not been able to get. So I hope that's a little bit of an introduction from me to help segue in, as I think we on the program, we've got hopefully Professor Zelinsky available to us.
Yes, thank you so much, Stephen. I'm also inquiring whether Professor Alex is already joining us, but not. I think we can talk more. And of course, Professor Tan, you can always anytime joining us also in the discussion. As a teacher, sometimes we also face a lot of issues or challenges these days, especially in the digital age. How do we still engage with the students, right? How do we actually still say that education, college education is still important? I think that is one of the key questions these days. As how would you answer that? Maybe Stephen, you wanna, as a parent of an 18-year-old that just start college, why do you actually what do you decided for your child to enter college? Do you think it's still relevant? I don't know if I'm asking you a hard question, but
no, it's a very relevant question. And I think if somebody could scroll through my WhatsApp at the moment, you would see my son asking exactly those same questions. It's so relevant at the moment for an 18-year-old because essentially, in the case of my son, he's gone to campus 6 weeks ago. He left home, had a very sad father who's chasing him on WhatsApp all the time, thinking about the parent side. But from his perspective, he's moved home and he's now studying online. And in his case, in the UK, without boring you with the detail, many of the students, international students, domestic students, have had to self-isolate because there's been COVID infection cases. So his first 3 weeks on campus have been studying online in his dormitory, having 14 days self-isolation, and actually him saying, well, what is this all about? Should I have just stayed at home? What's the purpose of it all? And in many ways, it comes back to exactly what Noni was saying earlier about not what's happening in the short term, but where the aspirations and where the bigger plan is, and whether it's a parent supporting the individual student or even the university. I think much of the benefit of university is not the immediate, can I consume the content of education online, which seems to be much of the narrative at the moment. That I often relate it to like going to a restaurant where a restaurant promotes the fact that you may not get food poisoning today. No one should be just focusing totally on quality. You need to be focusing on the experience, the benefits, and actually how it supports the wider aspiration rather than working on the lowest common denominator. So I think at the moment, you know, where students are is I think they demand much more than just having a quality instruction online. And I think there's a whole wider benefit of the support structure, enabling those students to remember the purpose of university, which is actually a part of the journey of life, part of building the networks, the experience and connections to go forward to truly get the benefit of that. And I think that's what we've tried to work with our colleagues at BINUS and Newcastle to do, with the mentoring aspects of the programs and the connectivity.
Yes.
So I think it's a very important question.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. Professor Tan, I'd like to ask you, questions. I'm sure how your teaching experience now with when you were a student were totally different. How do you connect with the students these days? What do you do, or how do you still be relevant to your students, especially with the digital startups, with new businesses that's arising? How do you talk to them, or how do you handle teaching and learning experience in their class?
Thank you, Ayu, for the question. I think this is a challenging time for everyone. To engage with the students is the key for successful teaching and learning practice. And that is at the core of our design and development of curriculum and teaching practice. So in Newcastle Business School, we emphasize practical learning and develop critical thinking skills for students. And a very important part of that is to let students to search and research answers themselves, rather than just to give them a lecture. So as I mentioned, I myself was from an Asian background, so I had experience in the education system in Asia, in China, as well as in Australia. So I do have some insights about the difference between these two education systems. So in Asian countries, I'm not saying all of them, but many of the education institutes, you will see that there's a heavy emphasis on the one-way lecturing. But here in Australia, in Newcastle Business School, we encourage interaction, engagement among lecturers, tutors, and students, as well as among students themselves. So we encourage them to, this is a big deal in their learning experience. We also encourage students to challenge the status quo, not just simply follow what they are told in the textbook, in the lecture, in the classroom, but to be creative and innovative in terms of problem solving, to search answers through active learning and research, rather than simply be told what are the right answers. So this is a challenging from a teacher's perspective, but we have done lots of work in terms of the design of the curriculum, to put the students at the center, to develop their interest in particular. It's a problem-based. So we introduce lots of real-time life cases studies in our curriculum, so they can, again, it's a real-life experience when they're studying. So when they graduate, they are kind of life ready, they are career ready. So that's the approach we take here in Newcastle Business School.
Thank you, Professor Tan. I also like to ask Dr. Syamil to join the discussion with us. Dr. Syamil? Hello, Pak Syamil.
Hello.
Hello. Pak Syamil, we're talking about how the current age, the digital age, has totally transformed how we conduct teaching and learning. And BINUS, with the collaboration with University of Newcastle, we hope to generate and cultivate that innovationship, sense of innovationship, that sense of entrepreneurship, especially for future business women and men in Indonesia, as well as, of course, around the world. What do you take on that, Pak Syamil? What do you think about teaching and learning, especially in BINUS perspective? We were talking from Professor Tan's perspective earlier, but what do you think, as a teacher, as a dean, how do you deal with students these days?
Okay, okay. Everybody is evolving, right? And I think BINUS is among one of the most ready school. We are very well prepared to handle this pandemic situation. Why? Because BINUS started from computer course 40, 50 years ago in the garage of the owner. So when we are talking about online learning, talking about information and computer technology, we are well prepared. And when we have the programs, it can be any program. It can be business management and marketing, international business and finance. Definitely, entrepreneurship and innovation is always there. They are always part of BINUS DNA. So in the courses, for example, we have group discussion, okay, and then we have project-based with technology companies, and then small and medium enterprises. So that is the way we teach our students, not only in the classroom, but also outside the classroom with many projects, real projects, not just theory, but real projects.
Good. We have a question actually from the audience. It's from Muhammad Nofal. He wanted to ask Professor Tan, how do you view the COVID pandemic that is happening around the world? And are there any difficulties about teaching students through social media?
Thank you, Mohammed. I think this is a very interesting question. Of course, pandemic create such a challenge for everyone in this world. And the loss of the lives and, it is enormous. But at the same time, we have to bear in mind, crises sometimes come with the opportunities. So of course, that creates challenge in terms of, engagement between lecturers and students. But now, as Dr. Noli has mentioned, if you learn to be agile, to be flexible, and to embrace the most advanced technologies, and you will find that probably at the post-pandemic era, you will have advantage over others. And I'm pretty sure this pandemic will go. And at the time, then you have to ask yourself, are you ready? Are you ready to compete and stand out from the crowd? In terms of social media, I think this is an extremely important tool for our communication, for our study. But of course, don't spend too much time. Sometimes we get addicted to social media. But if you use that wisely, that could be a very effective tool to your personal development and your academic development. In fact, in Newcastle Business School, we have a so-called social media marketing research lab. And our researchers are taking the data, big data, from social media for marketing-related research, which has been very productive, very fruitful. So you can actually dig out lots of useful, valuable information from social media, from a data source from the social media. But again, don't addict it. You have to look at from a perspective. And another thing in terms of social media, that's something I always tell my students. Don't just follow someone, don't just follow a group of people when they are follow each other. So you have to try to take different perspectives, different views. Try to follow someone you don't agree. You don't agree their view.
Wow.
And that, so there's, I think there's a great British philosopher. He used to say, unless you can not just know the best argument on your side, but the best argument on your opposite side, unless you can do that, you can't call yourself educated. So you, of course, this is uncomfortable when we hear something you disagree with, but that's part of learning, and that's at the core of what we call critical thinking.
Yes, I very much agree with you, Professor, because I think, you know, if we only agreeing with people that is agreeing with us, then we don't actually grow, you know, in how our thinking skills, it doesn't grow.
Exactly.
Sometimes we have to challenge ourselves in communicating and trying to understand the other person's way of thinking.
Exactly.
Which is, but I think it's hard to do, but we have to do it if we want to grow. Yes.
But this is a part of the education journey. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. Thank you so much. We have Professor Alex joining us. Good afternoon, Professor Alex. You still on mute, Professor.
Unmuting myself. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, sorry, I had some technology issues and some reason I had to restart my computer. So apologies for that, for being late.
That's okay. Thank you so much for joining us today, Professor Alex Zelinsky. We just start the discussion about, you know, with Professor Tan, Stephen Healy, as well as with Dr. Ahmad Syamil, as the Dean of BINUS Business School International Undergraduate Program. Do you want to say some few words, Professor Alex, before we begin the discussion?
Sure. Unfortunately, I've only got about 10 minutes and I've got to run to another virtual meeting where I'm speaking as well. So I apologize that I won't be able to stay too long, but let me keep my remarks very short. Look, it's really just an honor and a privilege to be participating in today's event to celebrate a really big milestone for my university, which is a partnership with a 2-degree program between the University of Newcastle and BINUS University. So our university is relatively young, started in 1965, and you know, we've certainly over 50 years been able to establish ourselves as a top university in Australia, one of the top 10 universities in Australia and top 200 universities in the world. So, and we've educated students from 120 countries, and it's just great to be building new partnerships. And our goal is for developing our students, we call them life-ready graduates who are ready to tackle big challenges, being engaged, entrepreneurial, global citizens capable of making a difference. So we're very proud to be of our partnerships in teaching and research to help build resilience and prosperity in the Asia-Pacific region, including our very close neighbours and friends in Indonesia. So, as I said, today we celebrate the partnership between a great university in BINUS University and ourselves. So this is a truly innovative partnership, enables students to gain 2 degrees from one program of study. And students can study entirely in Indonesia or study at one of our campuses of the University of Newcastle, either in Singapore or here in Newcastle. So, I'm very honoured to be partnership with BINUS and university, because you, I know, share a strong commitment to graduate employability and excellence in business education. And I know the BINUS University prides itself on producing work-ready graduates who are ready to take on business challenges anywhere. And I know you've got a strong background of accomplished staff with backgrounds in business innovation and entrepreneurship. So combining the expertise of the University of Newcastle, BINUS University and global business education, I'm confident that the 2-degree program will produce the next generation of outstanding business leaders and professionals. And I hope that can make a positive contribution to our economies of the world and to the society of Indonesia. So this truly is a momentous occasion and a significant milestone, certainly for my university, and I pay tribute to all at BINUS University and Global Business Education who have contributed to this program and to getting us this far. So, and to our new students, if you're there, I can't see you, I can see other people, but I don't see many students. If you're there, I just want to say welcome, and I welcome you warmly and wish you well in your studies. And to future students, I encourage you to prepare for preparations to study at a university. So once again, congratulations to everybody, and I look very much forward to a partnership ahead. So thank you very much, and apologies once more for being late.
Thank you so much, Professor Zelinsky. Thank you for coming. I know you have a busy day, but you know, thank you so much for joining us, even with the whole technological problem and issues and virtual meetings here and there, right? But thank you so much again.
No, I'm happy to stay. I've still got another 5 or so minutes, so I'd be happy to listen to the conversation, and also I should also give a call out to our good partner in this relationship, the matchmaker, Nurture. So anyway, thank you, Nurture.
Yes. Sorry, Stephen, I thought you want to say something.
No, I was going to say, Alex, great to see you. Thank you very much for that. So, you know, it's so exciting, as I said earlier, to be part of this. But with the University of Newcastle, you know, for us, this is a global partnership panning the whole ASEAN region. We started in Thailand last year. It's great to be in Indonesia, and we're looking to build this out and really extend some of the values and vision of the university around equity and excellence, but also what Noni mentioned, which is really building the community side and the people side. So the fact that this program allows us to reach so many more new talented students around the region will benefit all parties. And it's really awesome to be part of that. And I'd like to thank you, Alex, for putting us right at the center of that strategy, as well as all our colleagues at BINUS for making this happen.
Yes. I think, you know, even during this meeting, you know, one of us is in UK, another is in Australia, and us in Indonesia. Having time differences at this time cannot be an issue any longer. And I think that's also another aspect that, you know, a lot of students would want to inquire, that will the future always be an online learning like this? Will the future be, you know, as the globalizations keep on expanding? You know, there's no distance anymore. Nowadays, if we want to study abroad, it's so easy, right? We can just do online learning basically. But what do you think? Why do you think, you know, the co-join of BINUS University and University of Newcastle, what do you think we can bring for the future students or for the current students, as a matter of fact? What's the difference? What's the plus point that we can actually offer to the students, other than having a global mindset? We talk about having a global mindset, but what does it really mean when you actually say you have a global mindset? Professor Alex, you might.
Okay, thanks you. I wasn't sure who that question was directed to, but look, I think with our experience, you know, with the COVID-19, even here in our university, we had to, because we had some outbreaks and situations in the country, we had to observe all the rules and of the authorities about social distancing and closure. But so we went to online studies. And fully for a period of time, but there are some courses and things that needed to be taught, you know, hands-on laboratories, group work, etc. So we did try to bring those students back in with social. It was challenging, but they needed to do that because you can't be a doctor without doing some clinical work. We can't be an engineer without doing experiments or you know, or doing some building of equipment, etc. So I think that there's always the need for. There will be a need for some sort of physical interaction in some areas. Maybe some studies you could probably do them all online, but you know, it's interesting when we surveyed our students, we've got nearly 35,000 students, 80% of them said they want to come back to face-to-face studies. And so the students themselves find that online, purely online, is a bit lonely. And it's hard, you lose motivation potentially, even though, yes, you can theory, you can do it all. And look, if for some of the mature age students who maybe they can manage, balance work, family, those sort of things, they can study in that mode, but they still prefer, they need times when you need to get together with others to discuss things. So we think that the way forward for us is blended education, a combination of online, face-to-face, in smaller groups. I think the mass lecture, which is just a monologue, is dead. It's that concept is well and truly dead, because what people want is interactive sessions and smaller groups. And so I think you'll find a combination of online material. The lecturer might come into the room, say a few things, introduce a topic, said you may have seen this particular bit, I want to show you something else, have a discussion, do some problem, maybe even solve a problem, conduct a online survey straight away there. People use their phones to show they've mastered the topic or got some misunderstanding, so then maybe again present the same situation from another angle, so to get the people to really understand, and then potentially finish off with a bit of a talk, a short talk from the which could have been pre-recorded, or they might just deliver it there based on the feedback they're receiving interactively. I think that kind of blended form will be what we will see, and people do work outside the classroom, inside the classroom, and still interact, because at the end of the day, you know, society and us mix with each other, and people in business still need to meet with each other. Maybe there's short meetings, I think, is good with like this. This works. I'm sort of, in a way, I'm sad I don't get to visit your country, you know, for an opening event like this. But if I did visit, I would have obviously went to see the university, see the classrooms, meet the people. There's so many other things you do. So from a pure transaction point of view, I think you can do things online, but actually to create real value, you do need the physical contact. So thank you so much. And look, I really have to probably excuse myself now, and again, wish everyone well. Thank you for the invitation to the launch, and may our partnership prosper.
Thank you so much, Professor Alex. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. So we have several questions actually in the chat box, and I'm gonna ask them. I'm gonna inquire them. This probably we can maybe Pak Syamil could answer this question. Can you explain more about the program collaboration between BINUS and Newcastle? This is a question from Harun Al Salahuddin.
Okay, thank you. Number one, okay, we have to meet regulation from Indonesian government. Okay, number one, and then of course after that collaboration with other universities. So in the first semester, second and third, okay, most of the courses are from BINUS. Okay, and then on the fourth year, okay, only 1 and 2 courses from Uni of Newcastle, and then after that, okay, on the 5th semester, 6 and 7, most of the courses are from Uni of Newcastle, and then the last semester, which is 8th semester, it is thesis. It is why? Because it is required by Indonesian government. So that is the structure. And then for BMM, okay, Business Management and Marketing. So the focus will be definitely business management and marketing. And then on the third and fourth year, we learn more about innovation and entrepreneurship from University of Newcastle. And then the focus on BMM, business management and marketing, definitely we have to understand the foundation of business, but okay, we will learn more about digital marketing in business management and marketing. And then for international business, definitely we have to learn the foundation of business like operation management, okay, human resources. And then we have international courses like managing in ASEAN countries, okay, cross-cultural businesses, Those are the things that we learn in the first and second year, and then on the third and fourth years, okay, we learn more about innovation and entrepreneurship from University of Newcastle. And then for the finance, number one, okay, we cannot just go ahead directly learning about finance. We have to learn about the accounting first, how to create the balance sheet and so on. And then after that, we learn finance. For the accounting, our program is accredited by CPA of Australia, okay? And then for finance, we learn about IFRS, okay? International Financial Standard Reporting. So those are the things that prepare our student for international job, that those are given in the first and second year. And then for the third and fourth year, we learn more about finance from University of Newcastle. Those are the basic courses that we learn at BINUS International.
Thank you, Pak Syamil. Another question. This is probably Stephen. You can probably answer this question. If I attended this program, will I receive 2 diplomas, 2 degrees, one from BINUS and one from Newcastle, from University of Newcastle, or is it just one? And then when I graduate, will the commencement, will it be in BINUS or will it be in Newcastle?
Okay.
I think those are the questions.
That's a good question, very specific. But no, I think that's helpful in terms of just setting some context for the program. So very much it's called a 2-degree program because you get 2 degrees, you get 2 sets of transcripts. Professor Zelinsky was, very kind to acknowledge us. I wish our role was maybe at Nurture just matchmaking, but as colleagues know, we're doing a lot of the quality assurance and support to bridge the 2 systems. So even though 2 degrees, 1 program sounds quite a simple concept, there's a lot of detail we've had to do to align the quality assurance. So actually students do get 2 awards for 1 program, which we see as one of the unique aspects of it. They get 2 sets of transcripts, 2 certificates. The Newcastle Award does not say Jakarta, does not say Indonesia. It's the same award as you would get in Australia. The assignments that students do during the University of Newcastle section of the program are actually assessed by the same moderation and assessment boards at the University of Newcastle, which means when it comes to graduation, you can study the whole program in Jakarta at BINUS, but just hopefully in 2 to 3 years time, get on a plane freely to Newcastle and attend the graduation. Because whether our students on the 2-degree programs go to Australia or not, their names will be in the roll call for that year's graduation cohort. So what's really interesting in terms of the graduation question is actually there are potentially 3 graduation events. There's a BINUS graduation as a BINUSian, well, the first set will be BINUSian 22s coming out of the program. There will, of course, you can fly to Australia to attend the graduation in Australia, but of course, not everybody can fly to Australia under the program. So we will do a University of Newcastle graduation event in Jakarta as well. So potentially the students and family and parents will have many opportunities to celebrate their success. But I think, it's a really important fact that there are no corners cut here. There is not a scenario where somebody is creating a new degree with a BINUS and a Newcastle logo on. These are the same degrees that you would study if you had an Indonesian BINUS award and likewise a Newcastle award. So we've spent a lot of time with my team on the academic side, working with Professor Howe's team at Newcastle Business School, together working with the BINUS Business School teams to make sure that can happen. And, it sounds easy, but it's taken a lot of hard work by a lot of very, very committed people to make that work. But we feel that's the thing that's of real value. But if it's not the same, then it won't have the same value. And that's really, really important.
If I can just add a few words to what Stephen had just said. So at Newcastle, we take the quality and standards of the courses very seriously. And we take the equivalence of the degree very seriously, whether you study in Jakarta or in Newcastle. Because this is vital. It's vital to our reputation and also vital to our compliance with regulation in Australia. And according to this 4+0 arrangement, 50% of courses in the program you study in Jakarta and delivered at the BINUS will be exactly identical to those taught in Newcastle here, Newcastle Business School. In terms of the learning objectives, in terms of curriculum, in terms of assessment items, and so on. And now the 50% of courses, they are BINUS courses, the courses of BINUS, Business School. But those courses have also been carefully mapped to our own courses to ensure that they are equivalent in terms of course content, in terms of learning outcomes, and workload of the students required from student. So we, as Stephen has just mentioned, we have a range of quality assurance measures in place. Just for example, just take one example. So every semester, the results of the students, they will be reviewed in what we call assessment board meetings, jointly by Newcastle, BINUS, and also Neutral. So those quality insurance measures are in the place to ensure that the degree you are awarded through study in BINUS is exactly the same value as that from us directly, from Newcastle Business School directly.
Thank you, Professor Han, and thank you.
I think just as an additional element there, just to mention the AACSB accreditation, because the programs from the quality assurance side, of course, need to meet Indonesian Ministry of Education guidelines. They need to meet Australian Ministry of Education guidelines, but actually we still feel that's not enough. The big external business school accreditation of AACSB accreditation, in addition to those national guidelines, we aim to maintain the programs meet that accreditation. So it doesn't mean that anybody can teach on the program, but of course, given BINUS are also recently an AACSB accredited business school, we really actually are having two programs right at the top end. And it simply means that the lecturers on the program can't simply just have a PhD and be qualified. They also need to be active researchers or practitioners in their field. So there's that additional quality enhancement about what goes on in the classroom. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for the explanation. Another questions that we have in the chat is, in this partnership, is there any postgraduate programs? Anybody wants to answer that question? Postgraduate.
Okay, I will answer.
Maybe in the future.
Okay.
Okay, Pak Syamil.
Okay, by default, okay, this is undergraduate program. So you enter this program, double D program, after you finish your high school. Then you enroll as undergraduate program. Okay. For postgraduate program, the meaning of postgraduate program is after you are done with your undergraduate degree, then you go to master program. For master program, yes, we have master in management, like magister in management at BINUS school, yes. But if you like to go ahead, you like to travel to Australia, to Newcastle, definitely you will get MBA from Newcastle. Those are the postgraduate programs that we offer. But remember, by default, okay, this is undergraduate program, 4 year. In Indonesia, we call it Sarjana, program S1. So when you enter this program, okay, you will take 4 years of study in Indonesia. You don't need to go abroad. You don't need to go to Australia, but you will get 2 degrees. Okay, one from BINUS, according to Indonesian government, and then the second degree is from University of Newcastle. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pak Syamil. So
just on the postgraduate, I think we would look at that in the future, but I think the program does give students really interesting opportunities for master's study as Dr. Ahmed has mentioned, because particularly in terms of post-study work rights, if they do a 2-year master's in the UK, in Australia after the program.
Yes, thank you. So this is another question. Hello, I'm currently on my final year in high school. I'd like to ask, do undergraduates possibly join this program? Of course, please do. Please do join us. So another question in the chat. Will the certificate would be the same between my kid take this program or go directly study at University of Newcastle, or would it be different? Would it be different? Professor Khan, you want to answer that question? Or
yeah,
Stephen,
I think we already touched based on this question. As Stephen and I already explained, they are exactly the same. They are exactly the same. And in fact, when you study the 50% of the courses from Newcastle University, from Newcastle Business School, you are enrolled as a University of Newcastle students. So you have the same right as any Newcastle student to get access to the system, to the black, we call it here as, the online teaching system, Blackboard, and also library and database, and also academic support. So your right is as same as any student physically in Newcastle.
Yeah, and just to emphasize, it is the same. And I have parents ask me another question related to this, because everyone keeps thinking maybe there's some kind of trick. They also ask me, are the graduation colors from University of Newcastle the same as students who study at Newcastle? And the answer remains yes. But I think it's a natural concern for parents to ask, because, let's be very honest, many parents, and I said earlier, I think like one, are always suspicious of something that sounds too good to be true. I think all I can say is we spent, if it was that easy, we wouldn't have had to take 2.5 years to make sure all the quality processes work behind the scenes. So today, as I said earlier, today's event is very gratifying, and most definitely from London, worth getting up at 2 a.m. for, because it really is a reflection of a lot of hard work to get those systems happen. If it was easy, it would happen every day of the week, but we know these kind of programs are very difficult. But I just want to emphasize a bigger point there, because many parents feel the traditional model, particularly before the pandemic and before COVID, would be to maybe do a 3+1, do a double degree that involves going abroad, because the mentality was to get the experience abroad, to get the foreign award, because you would have to travel to get the foreign award. Our program has created the opportunity to not travel. But of course, if students have the ability and parents have the finance to get students to have an international experience, that's great. The program can do a +1 if students really want to spend 1 year at Newcastle to study, or even a semester if they choose. But whilst parents and students think about those opportunities about doing a 3+1 or a semester, it's often worth thinking about the longer term. And the longer term, particularly important, worth thinking about is if there is a desire or aspiration to perhaps in the future to get work experience in Australia, a very important aspect about the post-study work visa for students in Australia is that they need to do 2 years of study. So going for a 3+1 does not traditionally allow a student to then do post-study work. So if parents have that in mind, our program is quite an interesting investment long-term plan for their children to do the 4+0 and then do a 2-year master's in Australia in order to qualify for 3 years post-study work. So it's very important, as we are all obsessed as parents, students, about the short-term problems of mobility, is to remember the bigger picture is this is a journey, as Noni said. But actually, if the long-term aspiration is to get work experience, this program actually prepares a very interesting 6-7 year life journey plan for children, students, and parents at the age of 18. And it's worth thinking about the long term, because as everyone says, but sometimes people forget, education is a long-term plan. It's not a race where you get over the line and then you're finished.
True.
It's an ongoing process, particularly in the world we live in now.
Yes, thank you so much. Professor Howe, there's a question also from Pak Harun Al-Salahuddin. He said, I'm glad during this pandemic there's a program like this, but if my kid wants to go to Australia for double degree, not only for study abroad in one semester, is that possible?
So basically there are different pathways if we're talking about study abroad. One pathway is to study 4 years in Jakarta, get a double degree, and then perhaps you can consider to come to Australia to do a postgraduate. I haven't got a chance to elaborate our postgraduate program. We have a wide range of a postgraduate program, and to have having completed the program in Jakarta definitely will qualify you to enter into most of our postgraduate program. Of course, there are some specific conditions for some specific programs, postgraduate programs such as GPA requirement and so on. So that is a pathway. Right now we are, in this session, this is a pathway we discuss about. But of course, another pathway is to come to Australia to study undergraduate, and then you wouldn't get double degree. You only got one single degree, which is from Australia. So if you choose to apply independently for our program and study physically in Newcastle, of course, upon your completion, you got one single degree.
Thank you, Professor Han. For currently, for the collaborations between University of Newcastle and BINUS and between BINUS University, there's only 3 programs that are available. The International Business, Business Management, and the Finance program. Is that correct, Pa Syamil? Or do you think we have, later on we could further this collaboration in the future, joining other programs?
Okay, that is correct statement. So at this moment, for cooperation with University of Newcastle, we only have 3 programs: Business Management and Marketing, International Business, and Finance. Okay, we also have other programs that cooperate with other universities. Like for fashion design, we have cooperation with BINUS Nutramdia from UK, Nutramdia University from UK. And then for computer and information system, at this moment, okay, we are planning to have several partners, but those are beyond my responsibility because they have a new dean for that, and I prefer not to say. Okay, but definitely every single program at BINUS International, sooner or later, will have a double degree. No doubt about that. And one thing that I would like to say about scholarship, some people ask, do we have any scholarship? The answer is yes, 100%. Meaning that, okay, we might not publish, okay, scholarship, but number one, some students got scholarship. It can be 10%, 25%, 100%, depending on the achievement of the student, number one. Number two, even though we don't say it, actually, every student got some money. How? Because this program is heavily subsidized. Okay, this program is heavily subsidized. So, okay, for the cost, I cannot mention it, the cost here. Okay, but basically, this is the cost is like this. Okay, the cost of this program like this, but student only pay tuition like this one. So the difference, what is the difference? BINUS pay the difference, and it is a lot of money. Okay, so if you like to enter this program, please enter as soon as possible so that we will become new student in 2021. Why? After that, we cannot promise that we can keep the subsidy any longer because it lost us money. Maybe if you enter this program in 2022, okay, this is the cost, and we have to raise the tuition. Okay, we have to raise the tuition. Okay, so if you like to enter this program, please enter as soon as possible. You will become new student in 2021. Why? at this moment, we give very heavy subsidy, a lot of money. We spend a lot of money to give you subsidy. So this subsidized program. So even though we don't say that we give you scholarship, actually everybody receive a lot of money. I believe that Stephen agrees with that, right?
Okay, Stephen,
I totally agree with it. I think, you know, I think what we've created is, and I think when we designed this with our senior colleagues and the board at BINUS, was we understood that this is somewhat of a new concept and there would be skepticism. And so, as Dr. Ahmed said, what we wanted to do in the first year is to actually stabilize the tuition so that students coming into the program are paying the same tuition as the year before when it was only one BINUS degree. Because we want to see students go through, graduate, and feel the benefit, because we know people will be skeptical. And the best way to fight skepticism is to seeing is believing, as they say. See the graduates, see their experiences, and we'll so actually, in addition to the scholarships and the support from BINUS to equalize the price with the two programs, we also, on my side, through the Goal Business Education brand, will have scholarships available, and we'll speak with the team at that to make that happen. At the moment, what I would welcome is just as many students who are interested in the program and are eligible to go on the program. I want them to consider the program, because I think the program is an awesome opportunity. And actually, I would like us to be increasingly needs blind in the first few years. I.e., if you have the ability, we want to support you to get through the program. Because I mentioned it a couple of times, a lot of this is not just the commercial side, it's the mission and the vision. And I think even though Nurture in the middle is, I guess technically we're a private company, we're very public mission in our drive. So we want to see equity and excellence, and we want to see the graduates of these programs thriving, so that you're not just talking about the benefit of the 2 degrees, you're talking about the benefits of the jobs, the higher earnings, the better networks, and the better experience that you're getting. So we're all committed to that, both on our educational partner side, but also us at Nurture in doing that.
I think you raised also a good point there, Stephen, about the alumni. After you graduate, you know, not only you are a part of the BINUS University Alumni Associations, you are also part of the University of Newcastle Alumni Associations, but you are also part of the Nurture Higher Education's Alumni Association. So you have this really global partnership, global network, and you know, especially in the business sense, right? You really need a strong connection, right? You need a strong
I think
network.
connections and experiences are so important. We talk, when somebody asks me about the basics of the program, I talk about 1, 2, 3. So 1 program, 2 degrees, 3 networks. And actually, you know, that's really, I think, the key benefit. Although I understand in the short term, everyone will see the key benefit being about the 2 degrees. At a very affordable tuition that was the same tuition as last year when it was just 1 degree program. But I think, you know, but as I say, I'm a great believer in seeing is believing. So we don't want to overemphasize the network benefit until students have really felt that. But I think particularly in the pandemic time, when you cannot get on a plane and meet lots of people, one of my aspects of our vision within Nurture and the network we are building is the students studying in Thailand, now in Indonesia, soon to be Vietnam, soon to be in Colombia, soon to be in Africa. All of those students will be able to connect with each other. And that will be an additional benefit to being alumni of Newcastle and being in the same family as Miss Noni, or an alumni of BINUS and being connected to that community. And I think networks and people really matter in a time where we cannot actually be globally mobile. So I think it's really, really important. And thank you for raising that bit about networks and people.
Thank you. Thank you. I always remember, you know, whenever Pa Syamil presented, he always mentioned about networking, you know, that business is about networking. Pa Syamil, what do you think about having a global networking that, you know, these students who join this program will obtain the moment that they actually graduate? It's not as how we were in the past, when we have to apply certain, you know, certain membership, or we have to have a what you call it? We have to do real connection one by one. But these days, it's automatically, it's instant. Pak Syamil, what do you say about that? What do you think about that global network?
Okay, before we are talking about global network, we are talking about BINUS network. Okay, so when you enter BINUS international program, any programs, okay, under BINUS international, what happens? Okay, whether we like it or not, okay, and some people are shy to say this, okay, most people who enter BINUS international are high net worth individuals, okay, because these programs are not cheap, okay. So the parents of the student here are successful entrepreneurs, executive at many major corporations, and those are the network that we have. So when I observe our student at BINUS, what do? Okay, they have very high motivation, and they would like to become entrepreneurs or executive like their fathers. So when they are student here, they even do business. Okay, for example, simple. Okay, one of my students are selling paintings. Okay, many times he sent through WhatsApp, Dr. Syamil, you want to buy paintings? Okay, okay, and some students have coffee shop. Okay, some students have restaurant. Okay. Okay, some students are selling clothes in the mall. Okay, and not only that. Okay, if they have a lot of money, some students are buying and selling apartments. Those are the environment. Those are the network that you have. So in the US, we say that we grow with our network. With our network, okay, we grow with our closest friends, and those are the friends that you have here. Okay, those are the environment at BINUS. Plus, okay, with University of Newcastle, we have international network. Why? University of Newcastle, not only in Australia, but also in other countries. Okay, same thing with Nurture Higher Education. Okay, Nurture Higher Education will bring many international students to BINUS, and also we can also study at Nurture Higher Education Network in many other countries. I believe Stephen can add more about global network.
Yeah, look, I just think that the networking dimension is the really exciting bit, because I don't know, I started off life working for the British Council and promoting UK education, and you know, subsequently I then worked with American universities, now work with Australian universities, and there's an aspect within higher education when you become an alumni, you automatically become very passionate about that university and that country. But the reality is, as you go into business, you need to do business with people from all sorts of backgrounds. So if we're able to add value to the best Indonesian university, to the best Australian university with connections in America, the UK, and elsewhere, that's really the power of the network. Because when you come to do business, you need to almost be agnostic as to the nationality of where somebody studied, but you need a network or a basis of a network that can amplify your opportunities and your understanding of opportunities and your ability to meet challenges. So I feel like that's what we've tried to design within the Nurture added value as we go forward. So, you know, it's fantastic to be part of bringing BINUS and Newcastle together, but the true benefit and the true purpose here is to give the students coming out of the program what I call robustness and agility with their communities and networks, so it will endure with them 10, 15, 20 years down the line. And I'm hoping that's really what drives us. But that is so important in this world. You know, I've benefited from a very international education and workplace experience. I studied in Hong Kong, studied in the UK, worked in China, worked in Thailand, worked for international organizations. And, you know, I'd love to give some of those networks back. And some of our students will see now through the mentoring sessions that we do as Nurture, that actually we are connecting them to business people, entrepreneurs, and financiers who can work through. So I was lucky enough in, I think it was June, during the compact semester, I sat in on the students doing their Shark Tank presentations, where they presented all of their different ideas. Now, I had the pleasure of sitting on the Shark Tank as a judge, but on that judging panel were entrepreneurs from London, Hong Kong, and everywhere else. And those students were beginning to be able to broaden their network just by being part of their studies. And I think that's something that's going to be so enduring for them, that is beyond just their academic studies, and exactly what's been said here about the power of networks.
Thank you so much, Stephen. I think we reached the end of our presentation today. Thank you so much, Professor Tan, Stephen Healy, and Dr. Syamil for having this very lively discussion. I think we answered all of the questions in the chat. Thank you so much. And also, I think it become more and more apparent that this program is what we need, especially in today's age, when we need practicality, we need connection, we need network. And I think those are what University of Newcastle and BINUS University can offer with this joining program. So thank you so much. Our dearest speakers for today. I think we have some more questions about admission, but I think those can be handled by the marketing department. So I'm not going to ask that here. But other than that, I think I'd like to thank you again for the audience who has been participating, asking a lot of questions. Thank you so much for all the questions. If you guys need more information, please do contact our marketing team. Have your name and your number ready on the chat, and they will contact you the sooner. Also, I think we reached the end of our presentation for today. Professor Tan, thank you so much for your time. So I hope to see you guys all later. Sorry, Professor Tan, sorry.
Yeah, I would say it's lovely to participating in this event, and thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with colleagues in BINUS, colleagues in NUCHU, and also our wonderful audience. That's very interesting questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.